slightly over the top. So I'm glad to have the compliment. Thank you. All right, we've got a handful of folks on now. So why don't we kick off? I will do a very quick introduction. So to those of you who are watching already, hello and thank you for coming. I am Hilary Cannon. I'm the what am I, Jonathan? At the moment, I'm the marketing director for myGP. And we have with us today Jonathan Selby, who is our Chief Commercial Officer, and Dr. Jasmine Razak, who has kindly agreed to come and give us a hard time about our sexy new offering. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on behalf of a healthcare technology company, but I'm going to, and I can get away with it because I have an American accent. So if you guys wanted to say hello, and then I am going to go off camera and let you guys have a proper conversation, and I will keep an eye on comments here and on Twitter. So over to you.
Hilary, brilliant. Great introduction. And Jasmine, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's going to be really fun to talk to you directly and hear what you've got to say about the announcement that we have made. But first, look, I'm going to put you on the spot, if I may, because we caught up with each other last week, and I talked you through what the announcement would be. Do you remember what it was? Can you tell everybody what's in?
That myGP is going to be one simple package which has all the essential ingredients in there, which are what GPs really need to connect with their patients and run their services well, but without having lots of layers and lots of levels that you have to sort of sign up to. And if I remember rightly, that includes messaging to all patients, so within the system, and bulk messaging, an app, a triage tool, and a remote consultation with video, and probably a few more things that maybe I've forgotten.
I think you've done pretty well. I give you 10 out of 10 for that. Yes, so you were listening hard. So thanks very much for that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And those of you who are listening in and know us well will know that we've been in business for 15 years and with quite some sort of heritage of developing products. 2005, bulk messaging, getting into things like appointment reminders and automatic cancellations. And then we've been launching some new things like the app. And what this announcement is all about is bringing everything together into one single patient engagement platform, which we simply call myGP. So what it means is for existing customers, you keep what you've already got and you get a whole load of new additional things. And for any new customers wanting to come on board, then you just sign up for the whole platform. Do you think that's going to hit the right mark, Jasmine?
Yeah, to be honest, I think simplicity is key, and both for practices and for patients. So I think what patients always feedback about myGP is it does what it says in the tin. You can go on there and you can book an appointment. And that really is the hardest bit at the moment of our system, isn't it? It's really a struggle for us to work out how to get patients the right way to access our services, despite everything we're doing around it. So I think for surgeries as well, it does make it so much easier for us actually. Having one product that does everything rather than lots of different logins and methods and in a sort of a secure platform. Yeah, I think that's
good. So the individual components that we've talked about, I mean, which of those sort of caught your attention most?
I think it has to be the triage. So I think pre-triage is there. It's really useful. It can be tailored to your local population, and I like that. It can send out links to your MSK services and mental health. But I think the more advanced version of triage, which is coming with the myGP platform, I think it's just sort of, we're all waiting for it. I think we need that product that's going to really be able to manage that patient flow better, not just be a simple booking app, but do that advanced level of support for the patients and for the surgeries.
Good. And internally, we've kind of codenamed that simple triage. The name seems to be sticking, so perhaps we'll stay with that name when we formally launch the product. But yeah, you're right. What we're aiming to do is really simplify access to primary care for patients. It has got complicated, and some patients are reacting. I mean, we've seen, actually, I'm just thinking that horrible graffiti, people writing on walls. Just a few months ago, we were out applauding the NHS, weren't we, on Thursday night? So that, we know it is frustrating, I think, for a lot of people, patients and GPs alike. So what we're trying to do is be very, in this aspect, very patient-centric, and make it as easy as possible for patients to get through those hurdles that they need to. In fact, let's not call them hurdles, but lower them right down. So just nice steps to walk up.
So I've got a question for you then, Jonathan. So how do you take, so the myGP app, all singing, all dancing, it does so many things. How do you take patient feedback and also clinician feedback to design it, to get it just right?
So variety of chat channels for doing that. Really absolutely engaging with patients and GPs. We do that sort of informally and formally. The formal route is we have a clinical advisory board, okay? And then we have our own in-house clinician that we work with, who works closely with our chief product officer, and also the product team. And I guess the thing about that really is to judge us by our heritage there. So, the first things we've done in terms of enabling reminders to patients, then through the app enabling them and through text messaging to cancel the appointment, so that increases capacity. Then we came out with patient survey. We've had the app that came out in 2018. So there's quite a track record that we have in terms of taking on board feedback that we get from our customers.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that especially the way everything is changing so quickly, that we're able to sort of respond to what's happening. And it seems to be changing every day at the moment, doesn't it? And it's hard to keep up.
It is, and I think one of the silver linings of COVID potentially is the rate of change that we have had, but it's not a smooth ride at all. So that's probably a reason for me to talk about our ad hoc messaging tool. So this is a thing that we call Buddy. We just launched it. We have some very early adopters just at the end of last month, and that should be widely out to all users within the next few weeks. So that's a product that we were working on for 18 months or more, and then kind of accelerated our development to get that out. And we're really hoping that it's going to be well received.
So I've had a bit of a play with Buddy, but for those who haven't used Buddy, what does it do? How would you describe how it helps the patients and the practices?
So the idea there is exactly for you, Jasmine, as a clinician within the clinical system, wanting to send effectively an instant message straight to a patient. So your test results are in, please get in touch to book an appointment back with the surgery. So that's that kind of messaging stuff. And then with the ability to click a button and initiate a video consultation. Now, of course, we've had video consultations through the app. So we're now providing two ways of doing that. Okay, so for patients that are using the myGP app, they get the benefits of kind of an in-app video service. For those, and clearly, although we have 2 million, roughly, just getting, I've exaggerated, 1.8 million we have app users today. And for those, they can have that video consultation from within the app. But clearly, the majority of patients aren't going to be having our app at the moment. And so it's similar to the AccuRx approach of sending out a URL link that the patient can then click on and initiate that video consultation.
And you mentioned that word there. So you mentioned that QRX, and it's an important one to mention. Yes. And I think as GPs do, we always compare and contrast, don't we? So it'd be interesting to know what else myGP offer in addition. I know it sort of matches, but in addition, and I think one thing I was thinking about is does it do the bulk messaging? Is that something which is...
So, yeah, so look, our heritage is the bulk messaging. But getting back to the A word, right? I have a huge amount of respect for Accurex. They've done an outstanding job of putting a really brilliant tool in the hands of GPs, and even better, it was free. Yeah, so that's good, and it's good to have competitors because they generate innovation and keep us all on our toes. So you could say they're out first, and this is our response to that. But the thing is, what we're saying, for going back to the announcement, if you are a myGP messaging user today, you will get Buddy. In other words, you will get our equivalent to Accurex within our offering, free of charge. So there's nothing extra pay, nothing extra to pay at all. And therefore that includes the triage tool when that comes out in December. And that includes the video capability as well. So I just want to make sure that's clear. And so we're giving GPs choice and CCGs choice. If very soon everybody will be able to access Buddy and try it out and use it. If you like it, fantastic. It's there and you get it for free as part of our platform. If you don't like it, then that's fine. Well, it's not fine, we'll have to do better. But
we take some feedback.
Yeah, we'll take some feedback. And
so just thinking about actually what you just said, so actually, working alongside within the system, the integration within the system is so key and essential to make our products work. So how does myGP, in terms of the app and Buddy and all the essential features, how does it integrate with other parts, like the NHS app or eConsult? How does it all come together?
Right. Okay. So really good question. Let's just pick on eConsult for example, or indeed DoctorLink. So some months ago now, during the summer, we enabled what we were calling PreGP triage, and that's the ability for a practice to put their preferred URL for their chosen triage tool into the myGP platform, and so point patients directly to that preferred triage tool. So if your preferred triage tool is eConsult or it's DoctorLink, patients get on the app, they go straight to that tool, complete the questionnaire, and go on through that process to get an appointment or whatever is the outcome from that triage. So that's there today, and it will remain there. As just so we're clear for everybody, later this year in December, when we come out with our own simple triage tool, then our practices will have a choice. They can either point to the third-party tool, or they can take our own simple triage tool. Okay, that's one point of integration. A second one, for app users, we will shortly be launching NHS login for the myGP app, which will be fantastic. Wow. We all know it's been quite a challenge to get down to surgery and get your credentials, if that's what you're doing, if you want to look at your medical record or order repeat prescriptions. So now we'll be kind of falling in line with that standard NHS login process. So that will be something that will be coming out again very, very soon, sometime during November. And then, of course, there's always been the integration back into the clinical system. So, particularly if you're using EMIS, TPP System 1. So if we're doing a sort of a health awareness campaign, say a flu jab, something like that, then SNOMED coding we write straight back into the clinical record, as we have done for years and years now.
It's amazing. So it ticks not just the boxes of patients and clinicians, but also practice managers as well for sort of coding and reporting and health campaigns. So you mentioned, of course, the NHS app, and so myGP was the original funding around the myGP app came from the NHS, didn't it? It was a bit of an extra. And then I guess so my question is, all the new tools that are coming together, and the NHS with its support of bringing online consultations into primary care, does myGP fit into the criteria required for PCNs and CCGs to bring it on board at all across an area?
Yeah, so let me make sure I've understood the question there. As you pointed out, we were an early adopter of the GP SOC funding, so funding provided by NHS Digital to encourage firms such as ours to build a patient-facing app. So that's what we did and launched that. And then, as we know, the NHS decided to build their own app, and they have a policy of encouraging and supporting all of these different apps to give patients choice. And so within a region, then patients will have a choice to decide which app they want to use. It could be the NHS app, it could be an app from a clinical system, or it could be an app such as ours. And in terms of funding, I mean, clearly the apps are free now. The source of funding that we had from NHS Digital has now ended. But in terms of the decisions that commissioners need to make, it's really around what's the system that they need for patient engagement, which brings us back to the myGP platform. And then it's ticking off these, what were really very quite separate requirements. So bulk messaging, there's now the instant or ad hoc messaging capability, the online consultation or triage, those are all kind of separate requirements, but it's very clearly over the last few months, this has all come together, in our view, as one single need that GP practices have. So again, that comes back to why we've tried to simplify things and announce the myGP platform. How am I doing? Is this my main objective, Jasmine, is I'm crystal clear, and then to get some feedback from you as to if we're.
Yeah, no, I think this is really valuable for patients and for surgeries actually. And I think the question for me is: are there any questions from the audience watching?
Fabulous timing. I was just about to interrupt you both very rudely, and you stopped me from having to be rude. We have had a few questions that have come in from Twitter. It turns out we have a shy Twitter following, and they did not want to send them on the app, but they have direct messaged us a few questions. So since they asked not to be identified, I'm just going to ask the questions. So the first one is, I'm guessing this is for you, Dr. Razak, although Jonathan, you might have a view on it. And the question is, what do you think will be the biggest benefit to patients from this change, from the simplification of the offering, or if any?
So I think it's that patient pathway. It's that bit that it's really hard for them to book an appointment, despite the fact we are open, and we know we are open. We are working so hard. So I think it links the system up. It's that connectedness of everything. So rather than them having to, ring the practice or go on the website and find a link and click on that link and end up in an inbox, in an email, and then it gets workload to the GP. And of course, we get back to them same day as much as possible at the moment. Actually, it's all in one place, and they can see what's happening and be more in charge of their health. And I think the other thing for patients is its simplicity. I think the system is so confusing, and as we know as GPs, patients come to us not just for medical complaints, but also just to understand how the system works and how to get from A to B, because it isn't easy to navigate. So I think it's that takes away that need to navigate primary care. And I guess that's one, but if I can do one more, I also wonder if it's that. I think it's that the pre-triage. So if the patient put something in the app and they need to see the doctor for something where actually they may be better seeing the pharmacist, the app will actually prompt them. It may say, well, actually this appointment's better with the practice-based X or Y, or even better, it may be better with your local pharmacist. So I think that, again, that's about simplifying the patient journey. And I think that's why it's easy for us. And that's the feedback I get, and that's why I use it. As a GP.
Well, and that's super valuable for us because, you are our customer, right? So what we are trying to make your life as easy as possible. So it's, our presumption was that an engaged, kind of actively involved population would be a healthier one. And so frankly, we like hearing that we're right. It's one of my favorite things. Okay, moving on. Another question. Sorry, inappropriate. Okay, so the other question, where is it going? Okay, yes. He says, with regard to commissioning, now, Dr. Razak, again, this is probably for you. We're going to ask you to stand in the shoes of a CCG or a PCN. What do you think will be the biggest pull factor for them from this change, from a commissioning group for this change?
I think it's almost the same as a previous question. It's one product that does everything without having to have lots of different layers to the system, and it's giving the same offering to all your patients. And I think there are so many bits to what you've mentioned, Jonathan, about what's coming. I know I've got quite a few of them, but a few more I'm looking forward to. So I think it sort of covers your population. It covers different parts of the population. So those who prefer to be on video, or those who like the messaging functionality, or those just want to book an appointment, or those just want to order their medication, as many people use the app for. I think it's again, it goes back to access. And I think as a commissioner, I'm a PCN CD. I'm not a commissioner on the other side. I think as a commissioner, it always goes down to cost as well, doesn't it? So I think about a commissioner. So I think if it's, I don't know what the price is, but I think if it's a price which fits the tick box that is required for the service to be used by all, I think that they'd be looking at that as well. But I also think the way it integrates, I think that's really important. It's an NHS developed product, and it's there to support the NHS. It takes the iterative feedback, it develops over time, and it's got GPs supporting it as well on the clinical advisory board. So I think as a commissioner, it's not it's been around 15 years. It's not like a foreign entity. It's a very well known. iPlato everyone uses for many services. So I think as a commissioner, I'd be thinking of that.
Yeah. It's good.
Okay.
Look, I was just thinking, those 4 points there. It's interesting coming back to our heritage there, and I wonder how well our values are understood. Do you want to have a go at that one, Jasmine? Otherwise, I will tell you what
So unkind, Jonathan.
I'll tell you what motivates us, but I'm just curious. But
that was one of my questions. And I was wanting to.
Oh, I love that. She just bats it back. Nope, you may have that.
Well, look, it is for others to judge, right? But what guides us is being NHS first. Yeah. So that's the primary thing about us, and we are self-funded. So we don't have investors behind us seeking a return. We're a local, homegrown British business, so brought up within that NHS ecology, and that's very important to us to remain true to that. And then we've really got two other things, which are so simple to say. We've got to be easier for practices and doctors and better for patients. So it's really those three things that are driving what we try to do. And I realize we've kind of talked quite a lot this afternoon in terms of easier for patients, in terms of accessing their GP practice. But one of the things we haven't done, which is so much so, which I just want to try and redress now, and you've kind of alluded it to, Jasmine, a few times now, in talking about our pre-triage, yeah? So we absolutely give the ability to signpost to other NHS-funded services. So that kind of fits with our NHS first approach. But the big thing that's people will start to see and patients see is really the second part of this mantra of being better for patients, is starting to help patients take more control of their own healthcare. And again, we think that fits very well with the priority of it being better for practices and doctors, because if we can get patients to access healthcare themselves, we're going to get fewer sick people walking into the surgeries. But just to be in more detail about that, so things like mental health signposting. So we already have, depending on what part of the country you're in, if you're in Kent and Surrey, then you can get signposted to NHS-funded CBT therapies through a company called IESO. but we are going to have some national providers that are self-pay. So on the app, you go there first to access your NHS-funded services, but then we're going to shortly have, and I hope be up and running before Christmas, signposting to self-pay mental health CBT services, MSK services for physiotherapy, dermatology, diabetes prevention. You know, things have been going on with the sort of endorsement of the NHS for many years. I'm thinking of programs such as with Weight Watchers, you know, for example. So that's the other thing that's going alongside this. You know, I hope that's sort of clarified that point.
Right, we've got one more question from Twitter, and I'm afraid, Jonathan, people find you very uninteresting. All of the questions are for Dr. Razak. And I think this, I've held this one for last. I think it's a good one to end on. I'm conscious of people's time, especially yours, Dr. Razak. So thank you before we finish from me and everyone at myGP, including Jonathan. The question is, as new lockdown measures have been announced, what is your biggest worry for primary care?
Oh.
Yeah. Unrelated, sorry, it's
completely unrelated. He's thrown me completely.
Blame Twitter. Everyone does.
Well, to be honest, I think the obvious thing is our staff. We don't talk about our staff enough, do we? We talk about our patients, our services, our approach, access. Our staff are obviously working under such trying conditions, doing such long hours. Everyone's covering each other. Most people have just about had a break now, but still coming back from sort of summer annual leave. And then, so I think the impact is also on you know, our staff will be unwell. There are a large proportion of NHS staff who are unwell and who will need to self-isolate, who will need to care for their relatives at home. I think schooling is the other one, which we're not sure about at the moment, but obviously it's open, which is fantastic. But I think that's one of the biggest impacts, and of course that would impact patients. So I think, you know, going back to being a bit more digital, we've played with it all since March. We've all enjoyed bits of it. We've all sort of figured out the bits that we like, all got a bit bored of it and wanted to go back to as much face-to-face as possible, but realized it wasn't actually safe. And going back, you know, digital throughout winter, I think it's important to think about really streamlining our services to make sure that you know, the phone lines will be busier, won't they? The phone lines will be a lot busier, but there may not be as many staff to man them at the moment if they need to be off as well. So I think in terms of the impact, but I think there's lots of positives in terms of primary care at the moment. It's always in the news, and I think that's fantastic. So it's opening up what people think about the service and how we can keep redesigning, keep reevaluating and recreating solutions with our patients. So I think it's also very, although it will be tough, I think it's going to be a very good time for primary care. I just can't wait till next summer or whatever it's going to be over. So everyone else is.
We can all definitely second and third that one. And if it's any consolation, we do have a couple of comments on the YouTube chat. Someone says, thanks, KG Heath says, thanks for your hard work, Dr. Razak, and all of the other GP colleagues across the country for being there when we need you the most. And then we have Maria Fernandez, who says, thanks for all the doctors. They do a very good job. So I know there's been a bit of negativity out there at the moment, but it doesn't sound like it's as widespread as some of the media publications might suggest. So anyway, Jonathan, unless you've got anything further, I would like to let the lovely doctor get back to her practice.
Of course.
But honestly, Dr. Razak, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having a chat. And to anybody who's watching, if you have any further comments or questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. Twitter is probably the best place. Look for us on myGP app.
And we have a webinar next week, don't we, on Monday?
Yes.
So you'll get a chance to see it all, and there'll be details about that, I'm sure.
Yes, all the links are everywhere on LinkedIn and on Twitter, but we're having a webinar which will give a much more background and possibly a demo. I'm perhaps saying things I oughtn't to say in public since they haven't been decided yet, but there will be a webinar happening on the 9th of November, so please check that out as well. And thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a brilliant rest of your day.
Yes.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.